So it was too early to do my December TBR jar because it's mid-November, but I really wanted to use it. So I thought I would use my little new TBR jar to pick my reads for this week. So today is Monday. I finished my book this morning, so it's time to pick out some TBR prompts. So this is my new little TBR jar. Isn't she stunning? Should we pick the first book? Can't believe this is the very first TBR prompt that I'm ever going to use. Here we go. A book with a map, which honestly leaves me open to quite a lot of options. So this is my new bookcase. If you have not seen it, I have one. Does this have a map? I feel like this must have a map. Yeah. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a map. I'm going to see if there's some other options. I think that might be my option. Does this have a map? Oh, another map. Yeah, a little map. I've got 3 options here of books to read, each having maps in. I'm going to go through them and then we will pick which one to read. So the first one is The Assassin's Blade. Am I going to start Throne of Glass? That is the question. I know it's a very contested debate as to whether you start with this one or with Throne of Glass, but the box that I bought had this one first. So I'm going to follow the book set and read the prequel before book 1. So I don't know a huge amount about what this book's about, other than the fact it follows Selena, I think her name is, and she is an assassin, and I think in the first book she goes through like a trial or something to become, I think it's the King's assassin, and then this is the prequel. So do I start Throne of Glass? I'm asking you a question, you're obviously not going to be able to answer it. I continue Powerless with Reckless, which is the second book. So this follows Payden and Kai. Payden is I can't remember what the word's called, a normal? Ordinary. She's an ordinary, so she is a human without powers. And in this world, humans without powers get removed from society. And then Kai is the prince whose job is to remove ordinaries from society. And in the first book, they enter like a Hunger Games style competition, and there's a bit of a love story. There's so much sass between the 2 characters, and I absolutely love it. And this is book 2. Or do I read Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I don't know a huge much about this book. I know it's very loved. I picked this one up from a charity shop. It is a long book with teeny tiny text, so not sure if it's for this. But from what I can gather, languages are power, I think. That's basically all I know. So these are my 3 books, but I genuinely do think it's going to be this one. So I'm going to start my Throne of Glass read. I have read ACOTAR. I haven't read her like other series that she has. So this is the second Sarah J Maas series that I'm getting myself into, and I cannot wait. This is book number 1. I'm going to leave the TBR prompt out because I don't want to pick the same prompt more than once. And I will see you guys when I have a check-in. I actually can't believe I'm starting this series. I'm feeling quite emotional about this whole thing, but it feels like the perfect day to read it because it's snowing. It is, honestly, I would say it's our first snow day living in this house, but we've been here like 2 weeks. So it's like sort of settling. I mean, it's been snowing this heavily for like the last 2 hours, and that's as much that has settled. So it's not really settling. If you can see on the decking, it's melting, but it's so cute and it's giving all the vibes. I'm going to start The Assassin's Blade with the map. The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. Okay, so I'm going to sit on the sofa, stare out at the snow and read. I read the first short story that's in this book, which I can't remember what it's called. The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. So I've now finished it and I'm now on the Assassin and the Healer, which is page 76. I have to say, I'm not obsessed yet, but I'm also only 76 pages into a brand new series, so not hugely surprising. I also hear that this prequel isn't like the best, as in like it's obviously amazing, but it's not the best of the series. So yeah, at the moment I like it. I find her a little bit annoying. controversial opinion, potentially. Effectively, in the first book, she is in like an assassin elite group, and the master sent her and this other guy who she supposedly hates, but off to negotiate with a pirate, and then you watch stuff happen. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm probably not loving it, but I've only read the first story, and I think there are 4 in here. 5 stories in here. Why is it so dark everywhere? I can't, it's just so dark. It's very echoey in this room. I think it's because this door's open. My brain. What is it saying? 1, I need to get some serum for my hair so that I can blow dry it without it becoming fluffy. I'm so bored of having fluffy hair. I've had fluffy hair for like 3 weeks now. I just want smooth hair again, because I've got a whole list of things I need to repurchase, like beauty, makeup, skincare, hair care wise, and I'm kind of waiting for the Black Friday deals, and then I'll order it all. But that's not why I came to talk to you. I've been reading more of this book. I'm currently on page 117. Finished the second story. The second story was sweet, but it was very short, so I have nothing to say. But I have eaten lunch, and I am one of those people who needs a little sweet treat after every single meal. So I'm gonna go to one of the cafes in town, get a sweet treat, and some of the cafes have like really comfy seating, so then go and sit and enjoy myself. It is cold outside. I read some of my book, but that's actually not what I'm here to chat to you about. I picked up some few bits while I was in town. So there's this little independent clothing shop, and it's one of those things I feel like if I didn't buy from it, I'd then be like upset when it went, you know? So I decided to buy something. I mean, actually this high neck white top is actually just really annoying me. And I bought this little cropped high slash, that's almost like a roll neck, black jumper, and it's cropped, so it finishes basically where all of my high waist trousers finish. And I've got this little blue sequin skirt, and I think this with it for tomorrow for our team Christmas drinks will just be really cute. And then I just had to go into the works, didn't I? Because I have a problem. I saw the first book of this and thought, do I want to buy the first book of a series, or is it just really dumb? And then I found the second one, and now here we are. So I picked up Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which are 2 books in the Greshaverse, and they were both £3.50. So to me, bargain. I'm still reading Assassin's Blade. I'm currently on page 174, which I feel like for one day's reading is not too bad. It is now 3:15. I've got my sweet fix. I'm gonna go upstairs and I think edit another portion of a video, and then we will go from there. It's basically me finding fun new places to film. I'm currently sat halfway upstairs. You are on the little shoe storage. This is exciting. One of my favourite things in life, if you know me personally, don't think I've spoken about it much online. I freaking love dinosaurs, and then by association dragons. Because dragons are basically just mythical dinosaurs. Fourth Wing, although I can see it's not the best written original story in the whole wide world. I loved it. I had the best time. It was one of my favourite books. It reminds me a lot of Eragon, like an adult spicy Eragon, but like an Eragon. And I loved those books. Honestly, I think I read that series like 4 times, and the film was so disappointing. But I love dragons, right? I also have an aversion to hardbacks. Can't stand them. Don't know why, I've always been like that. And the second book in the Fourth Wing series has only been out in hardback, and so I haven't bought it. But guess what came out yesterday? The paperback version. And because I now have a permanent residence, I now am pre-ordering books, although I am going to transfer my pre-orders to Waterstones to move away from this company. But for the sake of ease, because I haven't got that set up currently, here she is. I'm so excited. If it's not this now, I'm going to absolutely cry. I hear this book's actually quite bad.
I hear it's very long, it doesn't really get into the action much, but this first book ends on such like a moment. And I've been wanting to read this book forever. And here she is. And she is massive. Nearly 800 pages. But yeah, I am so excited to have this in my hands in the paperback. I love books. It is a little while later. I think I didn't check in with you at all yesterday. So it is now Thursday. I am very close now to finishing this book. I'm on page 346. I'm enjoying it. I'm not loving it. I feel like it's like a solid 3.754 stars, like in that region. And normally that would be absolutely fine, but I think because I went into it with such high expectations, like it's a good book. I'm enjoying it. Obviously Sarah J Maas's writing is insane. It's feeling like a prequel. It's feeling like the plot isn't like hugely developed. And because it's like split into stories, like sub-stories that like one feeds after the other. So there is a continuity in the short stories. I feel like it's going to be useful backstory for Selena when I actually go and read the full series. But at the moment, I'm not getting the hype. I'm getting a good book. I'm enjoying myself. I'm not getting like the hype. And I am fascinated to see if other people who read this book first felt the same way. I got some more book mail. There was quite a lot of books coming out this November. So a lot of these are pre-orders that I ordered a little while ago that are just arriving now. I think I mentioned this earlier, I am going to transfer my pre-orders from Amazon over to somewhere like Waterstones, but it was just easy for the short term. Oh my god, this book is huge. So this is the book that comes on after The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It's been out in hardback for a while, but I just got the paperback. So this is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the Nightborn Duet Book 2. Read the first one, absolutely loved it, 5-star read, really like desperately want to read the next book. So yeah, I ordered this to arrive. So I've had 2 pre-orders arrive in this week, which is so fun, and I can't wait to read them. Finished it in a true Sarah J Maas classic storytelling way. The ending. Now I desperately want to read the first book. So it did its job. Like I was enjoying it enough, as I mentioned, but I wasn't like obsessed that this ending of this book has all the vibes you want. So The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas is now finished. Let me put that back. Back with the TBR jar to pick our next prompt, to pick our next book. So let's give it a little shakeroonie. I'm gonna pick this yellow one here. Oh my god, this is honestly so exciting. I feel like I could do this all the time. A book from a new author. That is interesting. So new authors, we've got Elsie Silver, we've got Catherine Center, Christina Lauren, we've got, honestly the options endless. I'm gonna pick a couple of options and we will choose. Right, these are the books that I'm gonna choose between for new authors. There's quite a lot of new authors on my bookcase, I have to say. These were the ones that piqued my interest the most, and they are so random from each other. Like they are all completely different genres, completely different vibes. We've got Flawless by Elsie Silver, which is the first in what I believe is called the Chestnut Hills series, but I could have got that wrong. But I see a lot of people love this as a quick, easy romance book, and I don't know a huge amount about it, but I know that it's like small town cowboy romance. It's a very different vibe from The Assassin's Blade. So this is option number 1. Option number 2 is Bunny by Mona Awad. I have not read anything by this author, obviously, due to the prompt, but there's a YouTuber I watched called Ellen who was obsessed with this book, like truly obsessed. I don't know a huge amount about this book either, but I know that it follows a group of people at university. I've got Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors, or Mellors. There are a lot of people at work who have read this book and absolutely loved it. I know even less about this book. These are like 4 books I don't know a huge amount about, if you cannot tell. Because they're new authors, I tend to pick them up off recommendations, either via YouTube or via friends, or in the last case, via a book worker. The last one is
Stunning House by Alex E. Harrow, which when I bought my birthday books from Waterstones, this was like the recommended book by the Waterstones shop person. So yeah, these are my 4 books. Which book do I want to read? I feel like I might want to read Bunny by Mona Awad. I'm so interested about this book. I feel like the person who I now don't remember who it is, but the person I follow loves this so much. I know exactly who it is. I remember who it is. I'll put her information here. So this is what it says on the back. Samantha Heather Mackey is an outsider in her small, highly selective MFA program at Warren University. In fact, she is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearable twee rich girls who call each other Bunny. But then the bunnies issue her with an invitation and Samantha finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, across the threshold and down their rabbit hole. Blending sharp satire with fairy tale horror, Bunny is a spellbinding trip of a novel from one of fiction's most original voices. I am so excited. I feel like it's a good enough different vibe to The Assassin's Blade, and yeah, this is book number 2. Oh, so today is Saturday. It was the Christmas party last night for work. Paired with the fact I think I'm getting sick, and then the weather today is like absolutely horrific, so it's like an absolute triple bill. I have read a chunk of this book. I'm on page 124. It's giving Heathers, like if you've ever seen either the Heathers film or the Heathers musical, I would say that's probably like the closest thing I can describe it to. There's like a trio, well it's more than a trio, there's 4 of them. 4 of them? 5 of them. There's a group of women who all call each other bunnies in the same way there are 3 women or girls probably, in Heathers who are all called Heather, so therefore they call themselves the Heathers, who are like popular, cool kids who like basically hang out and create this slightly like terrifying elite social situation. Very, very similar to Heather's. And we're following a girl called Samantha Heather Mackey. Why they always say her full name, I actually don't know. But like Samantha, who is like a slightly more awkward kid, has a like alternative style friend, very similar to Heather's. Like, it's like Heathers meets Mean Girls. That's the vibe that this kind of is. The writing style, I'm finding like both really interesting and really hard. I'm obviously not that far through and there's so much more plot to happen. It's starting to get a little bit eerie. I feel like it's gonna tip over from a teenage, school, I don't think they're teenagers, they're like in university, but like teenage school drama to, I think it's gonna get a little bit thrillery. Not feeling great, as you can probably hear. I'm gonna go make some soup. I know this obviously is a book video and not a normal vlog, but we've got so many vegetables in this fridge and I just feel like it's gonna make the perfect soup. I think that is the plan now. So I'm going to continue watching some videos that I've been watching, start making the soup, and then let's start chopping, and then eventually I will get back to reading this book. I'm upstairs to get dressed because I'm still in my pyjamas, if you cannot tell. I just got to the end of the first part of this book. If anyone has read this book, that was so weird. That was so weird. What? I don't know what I was expecting, but that was not what I was expecting. I don't feel like I can go into detail about what it is without ruining it and ruining the surprise, but honestly, that was insane, and I only read 20 pages, and those 20 pages feel like they changed the entire trajectory, the entire book. That was odd. That was definitely odd. That was hands down, without a doubt, the weirdest book I have ever read. It was so odd, like such an odd book. For most of it, I had no idea what was going on, and I think that was kind of the point.
you go into it thinking it's one thing and it's just like not that. So I think when I last checked in with you, I was like, it's like Heathers or Mean Girls. It's really not. It's really, really, really creepy. I don't really know how to review this book because I don't quite know what I've read. Yeah, I finished that book. Probably hear from my voice, I'm not feeling too hot, but let's pick, I assume, last book for this week, unless tomorrow ends up being a heavy reading day. So, the little TBR jar. Most recent purchase. You watched me unbox it, there is. This is a long book, so this is definitely now going to be the last book of this video. Whether I finish this entire book in this vlog is to be seen, but this is the last book that I purchased. This is Carissa Broadbent's The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the second book after The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I absolutely loved. Like, I loved it so much. It wasn't the most original plot point. Like, I feel like it was a combination of quite famous tropes all in one book, but I was obsessed. The first book follows a human child who gets adopted by the vampire king. She then grows up, and in this world, when you get turned from human to vampire, there's a high chance you'll die. So the king doesn't want to like take that risk, but instead takes the risk of putting her into a Hunger Games style competition, which to me the odds of that sound worse, but let's not go there. For her to then win, and when you win it you get a promise or you get like a gift from their like god, which obviously she's going to use to make herself into an immortal vampire. Lots of things go wrong. There's a love story. Honestly, she's like a human, right, in a competition with vampires. So she nearly dies like 20,000 times. But I loved it so much. And then the second book came out on pre-order in paperback. And yeah, it was the last book that I both ordered and got delivered. This is my next book and I am so excited. It's Sunday evening. I have been reading this book for some of tonight. I'm on page 140, which feels like I haven't even made a dent in either the book or the plot. So we're this far through. And obviously I can't tell you a huge amount about what's going on without ruining the plot of the first book. But yeah, I feel like the characters are behaving very differently. And I mean, they're behaving very differently because of what happened at the end of the first book. And like, I totally understand that, but it kind of feels like I'm not with the characters from the first book. I kind of feel like a whole new set of characters and therefore a whole new everything, which I'm really enjoying. Like, I'm having a really fun time reading it, but they don't feel like the same people. It just feels like I'm always reading a new book, just set in the same world. But yeah, I'm on page 140, which I think is about 15-20% of the way through the book. I mean, this book is so long. It's 754 pages. Like, I think that might be therefore my like third longest book of the year, probably. The longest book I ever read was a republished Stephen King novel called, I want to say The Stand. I can't remember what it's called, but it was a book that he wrote when he was younger, got popular, republished, ended up being really long. So that, I think, was like 1,200 pages. That's the longest book I've ever read, but this is like definitely up there. Having a very good time. It just doesn't feel like the same plot or the same, it just doesn't feel like I'm with my same characters, but we'll see. It's been a little while. I think it's been 3 days since I last checked in with you. This book is huge, so obviously it's taken me some time to get through. I am currently about halfway through. I'm on page 375 and it's a 750 page book. So pretty much 50% of the way through. It's getting so good. I think last time I checked in with you, I was on like page 150-ish. And I was finding it a good book, but it didn't feel like the characters I fell in love with. Like, they were behaving differently, they were talking to each other differently, they were making slightly unusual decisions for the characters we had become to know and love from the first book. And nothing's particularly changed in that. There are some of the locations they used to go to and the things they used to say to each other and do that have come back, which is like
given me that sense of like, oh, this is the second book to the first book that I really freaking loved. So that is making me feel like all like warm and fuzzy inside. But to be honest, I think the reason why I've like fallen in love with it again is because I've now fallen in love with the versions of these characters. So like same cast, same everything, but they're just behaving a bit differently because of what they went through. And because of that, I feel like I've now settled with these versions of the characters, and I love it all the same. Some really interesting twists and turns. Some of them quite predictable, I have to say. I think there's a lot of very typical tropes for fantasy books in this book series, both in book 1 and in book 2. There's not a huge amount of originality, but then who has much originality these days? Like, I feel like all these books are basically variations upon each other, and I kind of don't care. Like, I'm having a really good time. I feel like this is going to take me another like 2 days probably to read. So I probably won't now check in with you guys until I finish the book, but such a good time. So I will check in with you guys likely when I finish the book, unless something happens. I'm like, so yeah. It's a few days later. I haven't checked in with you guys in a few days because this book is just huge. But I am now on page 630, which if I get my bookmark out is there. I think I've got like 100 pages left. I just wanted to do a quick check-in before we got to the very last bit. It suddenly gets very spicy, and like the first book is a little bit, like there's a bit of it, but like it gets really bad in the second half of this book. Like, I don't think they are necessarily important scenes for the plot, so you could skim through them quite quickly, but it's quite graphic. I'm really enjoying where it's going. I'm enjoying the like war scenes, which I'm not normally a fan of it, but I think because they have a dual point of view, and when you're in the battle scenes, it swaps the 2 point of views in quite quick succession, so you're like constantly moving from one to the next to the next to the next, and it makes those scenes, one, feel quite stressful because you're like swapping so much, but two, it makes them kind of go quicker, so it feels less like we're in a war scene, you know? There are still a lot of like very famous, typical, non-unique tropes in this book. It is like trope after trope after trope after trope, but it doesn't stop my enjoyment of it. I'm having, honestly, it's such a good time. I'm on page 630 and the book is 754 pages long, so there's just over 100 pages left. I'm probably going to finish this today, and I will check in with you guys when I have my final review. I finished the book. It was actually quite, not an emotional ending, like I didn't really like feel like I was gonna cry, or it didn't like hit you in that way, but it hit me in like the story's over, and I was quite sad that the story was finished. Like, I just had a really, really good time. So I'd give it like a 4.75. Like, I had a really, really good time. I am actually really glad it was just a 2-book duology. Obviously the second book is basically the length of 2 books in one, but I'm so glad they haven't tried to like drag it out. I do think there are other books in this universe, but I quite liked the story of these 2 characters followed that kind of like 2-book world. So I've read my 3 books. The 3 books of this challenge had The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I liked it. I didn't love it. It suffers from feeling like a prequel. Like, it just genuinely feels like a prequel. So I'm very excited to see where the series goes. Now it's kind of set it up for the start of the main bulk of the story. And the ending of this book, so good. So I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like the best book ever. Like 3.75, 4 stars, but very excited to see where the rest of the series goes. We then have Bunny. I don't really know how to describe what this book was. It was odd. I went to my library to sign up literally earlier today, and Mona Awad has another book in that library. I think it's called like Ruby or Red or Rouge. And I kind of want to read it just to see if her writing style is always completely unhinged, but this book was like odd. So I can't remember if I gave it like 3 stars or what, but
I can see why it gets rated quite low. Like, I think it was one of the lowest rated books on my Goodreads, but I can also see why people love it because it is different. Like, it's at least new. Like, it's a very new plotline. And then I finished it off with Carissa Broadbent's The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the second in the Nightborn duology. I had the best time. I loved this book so much. Big fan, loved this, 4.75 stars, as I have already said. And yeah, this marks the end of this video. I had so much fun. I'm definitely going to keep using the TBR jar for picking out books going forward. I may and will start filming TBR videos at some point, but I'm very excited, and yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, leave a comment, you know what to do, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!